Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Get connected, Fitchburg. We're launching Fitchburg Connect, the city's new monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
It is 5:31 and I am calling to order this Fitchburg Board of Public Works meeting for March 2nd, 2026. With me in chambers, I have Don Gutkowski and Dave Wilborn, and remote I have Kim Lobdell. Alder Herbst is excused today. I see nobody in chambers or online for public appearances for non-agenda items, so I'll go ahead and move on to item 3 on our agenda, the approval of minutes. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the February 16th minute?
I would like to move, we approve February 16th meeting.
Second.
Excellent. Is there any discussion? Changes, comments, anything?
None.
Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor of the meeting minutes as drafted in the agenda packet, say aye.
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 It is unanimous. Excellent. Moving on. Report from the Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker. Take it away.
Thank you. A couple follow-up items from our last meeting, which was on February 16th, 2026. Alder Herbst had brought up a speed limit sign post that was knocked down off King James Way. That was actually repaired last Monday prior to our meeting by City of Public Works Streets staff. So I followed up with Mark the next day, and his staff actually saw it during the day and made that repair. And then last meeting also regarding resolution R-49-26, that was the resolution approving the affidavit of correction to the public pedestrian bike path easement and maintenance agreement and assignment on lot 66 of outlot 41 and outlot 42 in the 7th edition to Nine Springs. Alder Jetzer, I think you had asked kind of how that request came about and who noticed the legal description that needed to be revised. So the original legal description was actually over the entire outlots for both 41 and 42. So the property owners came back to the city and they just wanted the legal description to be the width of the easement, which was 20 feet. So therefore, that's why the legal description was revised. It was the property owners had requested it. They didn't want it to be over the entire lot, just over the 20-foot wide easement. And then lastly, we had our sidewalk assessment resolution, and kind of during that discussion item, the MG&E project that happened this past year, Alder Herbst, I believe, had asked if any of the broken sidewalk off of Spoke Drive and Sprocket Drive was caused by MG&E, and any repair or any broken sidewalk that they did cause, they had already replaced. So I'd confirmed that with Zach Laundry, who's overseeing our sidewalk replacement project, and he confirmed MG&E has already replaced the sidewalk they broke. So any sidewalk that we are repairing along Spoke Drive and Sprocket Drive are just due to general wear and tear of the sidewalk. And then next up, a couple project updates. Our 2026 street resurfacing project. Bids will open next week, Tuesday, on March 10th, 2026. And then our 2026 sidewalk replacement project, we anticipate advertising that project in April 2026. And then lastly, our water tower, D, that's our new water tower going up off of Highway 14 in Uptown. The crane is expected to arrive on site this Thursday, and the contractor anticipates erecting the tower the following day on Friday, March 6th this week. If you guys are unable to kind of drive past that day and see it, FACTv will be on site throughout the day, kind of capturing video footage, and we'll be putting together a little video of that as it goes up. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
Is the sidewalk, is this the same timeline we did last year, April, or I was just wondering if
Last year we didn't do a sidewalk replacement project. We were still wrapping up the 2024 project last year. And then, yeah, typically this is the time frame we like to see it. I know historic last several years we've kind of been later, but we like to get that out and out to bid early in spring so that there's sufficient time to complete that project.
I got a question about the water tower. How long does it take to erect that thing? Is that like 2 hours or 12 hours or?
They anticipate, I believe, getting it done that same day. So okay. You'll see the stem kind of go up, and then the sphere right now is in two pieces. So
I guess just at a high level, how do they, like, they have to put the piece there and then weld it in place, or how does that work?
There will be some welding in place. I believe it's one day. I'll check with Chelsea and I can update you guys.
I saw a post on Nextdoor. Somebody took a picture of one of the things and pieces and said, "Boy, it looks like a nuclear cooling tower. What's going on out there?" Anything further for Tim?
And then I guess lastly, too, just last meeting with the resolution regarding the budget amendments. The budget amendment had included 4 buildings that went over budget for utilities. And then Alder Jesser, you had just asked, I'd kind of come up with a summary of the buildings and how they're heated and cooled, and kind of what the budget was and how much we went over. So I prepared the spreadsheet, and Kim, you can see it on the screen. I passed out paper copies here. On the left-hand side of the spreadsheet are the 10 buildings the city has, and I also included the new police facility, which is under construction, and then Hasto Hochi, which was under construction in 2025 up until November, and then was kind of placed somewhat into operation for the remaining part. And then for each building, I kind of have a column for the heating, summarizing it, and then also how it's cooled, and then whether or not there's geothermal. So about half our buildings have geothermal. The 2 fire stations, West Fire Station 2 and East Fire Station 3, have geothermal. The police facility will be geothermal. The library's geothermal, and Hasto Hochi's geothermal. And then the last 2 columns was our budget. And then last column is the expenditure on what we've actually expensed for 2025. So the building or the font where you see is red, that's the buildings that went over budget. So you can see City Hall went over budget by about $17,000. And then the 2 fire stations, the East and West Fire Stations, went over budget. And then the libraries, and the community center building were the last 2 buildings that went over budget. And it's kind of a mix of, we have heat pumps in West Fire Station number 2, East Fire Station number 3, City Hall and kind of the community center are heated by gas boilers. Then the public safety building, which is Fire Station number 1 off of Lacey Road, and our public works maintenance facility are heated by gas furnaces. And then the new police facility will be small heat pumps. And then Hastahochi has the heat pumps and chillers. And then there's a small gas boiler for the in-floor heating. And then the library has the large heat pump chiller that we just replaced about a year ago. I know this is a lot of information to kind of toss at you. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions or...
I've got a question about the fire stations. How much air conditioning do we have for the bay areas? Because I'm imagining those doors go up and down throughout the day, and any air we condition in there is just going to escape.
Yes, so as far as cooling that, I believe that the Bay Area has an air handler that kind of handles that, but for the most part, it's cooled with the outside air, that it's not being cooled by air conditioning.
Well, when I say condition, I mean both heating and cooling, sorry.
Yeah, so heating's taken care of, and it's done differently. So there's in-floor heating in both fire stations. The East Fire Station has 2 high-efficiency gas boilers that heat the floor. And then the West Fire Station, it's 2 large heat pumps. And we actually had one of those heat pumps have been out for, I think, the last year or 2. So it's been difficult warming the Bay areas just because that in-floor heating wasn't working because of the heat pump. Once those floors are heated, they stay warm. But as with that broken heat pump, it was very difficult this past winter to keep that Bay Area warm.
Any other questions for Tim?
Tim, what kind of contingency do we put into our budgets to handle this?
The fluctuations, so kind of how we budget, we take the last 5 years worth of bills for each of these buildings and average them, and then we'll increase it by 3%. Some of these buildings, though, we're seeing that 3% isn't keeping up with what we're actually using. This past year we were tracking it all year long, and we were good up until the end of October. Then once November, December hit, because of how cold it was, is kind of where we lost track of being within budget, and that's where we got out of whack.
Do we have a different rate structure? I'm just thinking of my own bill for my residents. Does the municipality play by different rules?
I don't believe so. I think we follow the same rules as everyone else.
But there are like separate rates for commercial. And I didn't know where the city government stands on
I can check. I don't see the bill. Finance is the one that pays the bill, so I can check with them and see if that's something we qualify for or get charged differently.
But I do remember looking at a couple of my bills in the recent past, and I feel like the marginal cost of a therm of gas has like doubled since summer or something like that.
What is interesting, so fire station number 1 has 8 high-efficiency gas furnaces, and kind of how that's broken up is 2 of the furnaces handle the UW side of that building, 3 higher handle the fire side of the building, and then 3 handle the bay area. And, depending on what areas get used the most, the city won't program them to run, like the basement in summer. And really, you can kind of see with that budget, our utility, it's about a 15,000 square foot building, I believe Kevin, our building maintenance supervisor, told us. We spend $21,000 for a year there just because, there's, depending on the use of the different areas we're running it, but if it's not used, then we can shut it off and kind of quarantine off that area and not keep it warm. So it's interesting that, the furnaces kind of were the ones that seem to be the most efficient. And another advantage to them, if they break versus a heat pump, sometimes we pay it several $1,000s to work on a heat pump, where a furnace, it's a couple $100s to have someone, it's just like a home furnace, so a couple $100s.
I will say it's interesting that the, fire station number 2, which is presumably got trucks coming in and out all day long, had roughly the same budget as the public safety building. I don't know what, I wouldn't expect fire station number 1 to have those bay doors opening and closing throughout the day.
Correct. Yeah, that is interesting.
Anything else for Tim? Kim, you got anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. We can move on to our item 5A, review items here, review of utility P-card and check payments. Any comments or questions on that? Seemed like it was kind of a small group this time.
I did have one question on the Bruce Company McKee Fountain Power 12/18/2025. What does the Bruce Company have to do with the power?
So that's the McKee fountain. We were having some issues with that, and that was the repair of the fountain. The Bruce Company is the company we utilize to come out, install, and take down the fountain. And we also had issues with the power going to the fountain. So I believe a couple meetings ago, I had talked about how we had recently, last couple years, made some repairs to the motor in the fountain, and then they replaced the motor. We're still having issues where it would short out. They thought it was the actual power being run from the electrical service to the fountain. So that was repaired late in 2025, and however, the fountain was already out of the pond when we made the repair to the cable. So this spring we'll find out if there's the solution to it.
Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else, we can move on to our action items here. Agenda item 6A. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve resolution R5226, adopting the 2025 NR 216 permit annual report?
I'll motion for
I-
R5226.
And I'll second.
Motion by Don, second by Kim. Thank you. Tim, any introduction, or are you just going to have Ben walk us through those?
I'll have Ben just walk you guys through.
Okay.
Yeah, so just again, as kind of a refresher of what this even is, this is kind of the annual reporting document that is provided to the DNR that kind of summarizes the different permit activities that were completed in the reporting year for 2025. So again, the city has this MS4 permit, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System permit. There's basically kind of these 6 major overarching measures that make up this permit. So just quickly, that's public education, public involvement, illicit discharge and detection, construction site pollution control, post-construction stormwater management, and then pollution prevention and kind of municipal housekeeping. So this report really summarizes the actions as they relate to those 6 minimum control measures, as they're called. So there's not too many changes as far as different protocol that the city's doing differently to kind of meet these control measures. We've been completing some very similar activities to previous years. So I won't go through, line by line of what's actually written on here. But again, we had several public education opportunities throughout the year. Didn't have any issues with illicit discharge and detection, so there weren't any illicit discharges found in our routine screening. There were 2 that were reported to the city that were mentioned in this report, but those were not part of our annual screening. As far as kind of the construction site pollutant control, there were 28 construction sites in Fitchburg with over 1 acre, and that's just throughout the entirety of 2025. The city issued permits for 17 sites over 1 acre in 2025, and of all those sites over 1 acre, there was a total of 509 municipal inspections completed. And then there's just some information on warnings and citations that were given out. Post-construction stormwater management, there were 10 new private BMPs that received local approval. No new public BMPs this year. And then we received annual inspection reports from 73 different sites. It's about, it's not 100% of all the sites, so we're doing our follow-up right now with those remaining sites. And then the pollution prevention and control section kind of lists, it's pretty broad, so it's, all of our, inspections on the municipally owned BMPs. So we had 103 inspections we did in 2025. There were 42 of those sites where we had some maintenance suggestions. Most of those were very kind of low priority items, related to vegetation. And then we also have some information on street sweeping. So there are 281 tons of material removed from street sweeping. There was no catch basin completed last year. Again, some information on salt use, leaf pickup, and then just general kind of financial information at the end. But kind of all in all, there weren't any compliance issues that staff found when completing this, and I'm happy to answer any kind of specific questions that anyone may have on the anything really in this permit document.
Questions?
Yeah, Ben, on page 9 of, I think it's 9, let me get it, no, maybe it's 10, sorry. 10 of 58, in there it talks about construction site pollution control, and there's a bunch of warnings, verbals, written,
Yep.
not so many violations and stuff. How many of those are repeat customers year after year that we have?
Yeah, so, and just kind of to clarify what some of these things mean, the verbal warning and written warning, those are kind of the lightest enforcement actions, if you will. So maybe you see something pretty minor and you just email the contractor, hey, this inlet protection looks like it could use some cleaning, So that's what those kind of written warnings and verbal warnings are going to primarily be about. Notice of violations, that's when, okay, this is either a repeated issue that we're not able to get corrected just by working with the contractor, or it's some sort of a, maybe they've got something on their site that poses some risk to downstream properties that needs to be corrected in a hurry. But yeah, that's a good question as far as the repeat customers. So of course we do work with a lot of the same contractors, many of the big contractors, but there's also a lot of different crews too. So each of these big contractors might have a handful of different crews. But it is, some of the same people, but we do try to focus on kind of education and making sure at least people know what's kind of expected and what's right before we start kind of doing the more stop work order.
It looks like there were none last year. I mean, you have these things available to you, but then it says, enter the number each used in the reporting year, and they're all zeros, right? On page 10?
So this might be on page 9 for you.
Okay. Okay, the 18 and the 197 or whatever?
Yep. And
The
then
two violations, okay.
And then we did have one stop work order last year as well.
Okay.
And that's kind of
I was
what.
on the next grouping.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and then the ones that are all zeros, we actually do send letters to all the private property owners every year, but I didn't feel that was like a written warning necessarily. So I did describe that in the appendix that we write letters, kind of reminder letters, and I just didn't feel it it's not a verbal warning or any of these things.
I had a couple questions in here. So on page 6 of 58, there's a question on there, were there any changes to the municipality's participation in group efforts towards permit compliances, adding or dropping consortium memberships? Is our Renew the Blue participation going to make its way into this report for next year?
It probably will, but more so in like the public education and outreach section. If people from the city do kind of help out with that, the consortium that they're kind of specifically referring to the MAM swap group. That's the Madison Area Municipal Stormwater Partnership. So that's the group that there's these 21 municipalities and UW-Madison that are a part of this group, and that's kind of what it's asking if we're still a part of that group.
Okay, and also the lead for cities. I don't remember if there was a stormwater component to that or not, but
if there is, then I would definitely try to reference that in the appendix.
Okay.
Yep, next year.
On page 9, I was looking at it says how many outfalls did the municipality evaluate? And it looks like 33 out of 265, which puts us roughly on an 8-year cycle for inspecting all of the outfalls. Is that the pace you prefer, or is that?
Yeah, so we have them broken out into 2 categories: major and minor outfalls. Major outfalls are going to be your larger diameter pipes. Again, we say we have 78. The city, the requirement is to inspect all of your major outfalls every 5 years. The city does it every 3 years, so we break it up in the city into 3 zones. So we get all the major outfalls in 3 years. And then with the minor outfalls, again, that's something where that could be a lot of different things. A minor outfall could be just an inlet that connects to one pipe and then it discharges, into a swale. So I'm thinking like the East Sherrill swale kind of has a bunch of these one inlet pipes that discharge. That's not something you need to look at every year. So the rest is kind of done on, if we can get them all in 10 years, then that would be, I think, kind of the goal we want to work towards.
And you had mentioned we had 28 sites with 1 acre or more of disturbed land, and permits were issued for 17. What permit is that, and what are the criteria surrounding that?
Yep, so that is the city's erosion control permit. So any site with over 4,000 square feet of disturbance or, a certain amount of cut or fill volume or a certain length of linear trench disturbance has to fill out an erosion control application. The DNR is only asking here about sites over an acre. So a lot of those sites that are over an acre, they might be like a plat project, which is, could be multi-year. So that's why there were 28 permits open throughout, or 28 sites over an acre throughout the year. Some of those were 2024 permits. So that's kind of why you get 28, even though the city only issued 17, is because
They were still working off of last year's permit.
Permits that were being worked on from 2024.
Okay. In the list of expenditures on page 16, looks like we budgeted $700 for public involvement and participation, and we only spent $50. I guess what were we thinking there, and is $50 maybe doesn't seem like enough, or I'm not sure what we were going to spend the money on.
Yeah, so and let me find the appendix here because it does break that out a little bit more.
Oh, that itemized list is in there later. Okay.
Yeah, so our budget doesn't exactly match the format of kind of the questions that they're asking for this expenditure. So we don't have like a public involvement and participation budget. We don't have a illicit discharge detection and elimination budget. So for the public involvement and participation, that's just the total budgeted amount of dollars for any kind of event supplies. So one of our events that we do every year for meeting this public involvement requirement is the waterway pickup, and it just doesn't cost that much to do. You're just kind of buying some garbage bags, refreshing your stock of gloves or things of that nature. And then the other public...
Bagels and coffee?
Yep, so that kind of stuff. And then most of the other public involvement and participation requirements are met through just having the RCC meetings or even a meeting like this. So yeah, last year I know all that money that was listed as the expenditure was definitely just like buying stuff for the waterway cleanup.
Okay. And then on page 17, it talks about the modeling, and I know we just recently updated our model. What sort of a cadence do we have for updating that? Is that something we try and do every 3 years, every 10 years?
Yeah, so this question that they ask here, they say, as municipality completed or updating modeling in the reporting year, but what they're kind of asking is, they're saying, if yes, what is the average annual discharge from the entire MS4 area? So the city didn't update the model for the entire MS4 area. It was just for the TMDL area. Oh. The MS4 standards have already been met by Fitchburg since I think 2008. That's 27% TSS reduction and 20% phosphorus reduction or something like that. So the city already met those requirements. So the TMDL modeling that we completed, we didn't enter in those values because it wasn't really the question they were asking. But as far as how often we'll update the TMDL model, we do plan on making those kind of updates annually, so we don't get far behind. And yeah, it's a lot harder if you go 10 years and then have 10 years worth of stuff to add in.
Yeah, we had to hire some temporary help for that
We
last
did,
time around, right?
Yeah, because
How long had it been?
It had been, I think, 12 years maybe.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, or something like 10 to 12 years. So yeah, it does get, it gets difficult. Yeah, if it doesn't get updated.
Okay. On page 28, I tried to click on the link for the online interactive map showing the stormwater sewer system requirements, and I was faced with an ArcGIS login page. Is that expected? Is that supposed to be behind a?
No, I probably linked the employee map that you don't have access to instead of the public map. But yeah, let me change that. Yeah, the map that was submitted in here, let's see, I think it was, yeah, I actually do have an updated map that'll also be including that just wasn't done last time.
I kind of poked around a little bit on our generic GIS viewer, and I didn't think I saw a layer that I could turn on for storm sewer system.
Yes, there should be.
Okay, maybe I missed it.
Yeah.
Is that should be under Public Works or?
Yep.
Okay.
Under the Public Works tab, there's a stormwater utility tab, and that should have all your pipe network, basins, inlets, manholes, and yeah, they do ask for a storm map that I'll submit, but you just can't really see anything on the map. It's just too much to kind of put on to paper. So if anyone is interested, I definitely recommend going online and using the GIS map, because you'll actually be able to kind of see what's going on, I think, a little easier.
Okay. And then there's, I think maybe this is that enormous spreadsheet I was talking about earlier. Page 56. The first column in there is like a high, medium, low, but it's not labeled. What are we measuring there?
Oh, that was priority.
Okay.
So just as far as like, does this need to get fixed this week, this month, or this year, couple of years?
All right, and the last thing on my list, I noticed we used, thousands of gallons of beet juice and brine, but 800 tons of salt. And I guess I don't know. I mean, is that like concentrated beet juice that gets diluted before we put it down, or what sort of coverage are we talking about with the beet juice and the brine versus the salt? And do we feel like we're using the appropriate amounts, or do we wish we were using more of the beet juice and brine or anything?
Yeah, so all of that is kind of, depending on, do we use beet juice or brine or
highly dependent on weather.
It's all, so that kind of is really what dictates what product gets used and when. The beet juice, I don't remember the name, the product name. It escapes me, but it's basically a pure desugared beet juice that they actually mix that with brine, so they never put down just beet juice. It's always a blend of the brine and the beet juice. But it's not every snowstorm you're going to have the option to put that out. It might not be worth putting out. So it's just kind of, again, dictated based on the specific weather conditions.
The beet juice, it's called BioMelt AG64, and it's a 80-20 blend with salt brine. So yeah, like Ben was saying, with the weather, it dictates it. If there's rain, any chance for it, we don't put it down because it's just going to wash off. What Mark likes to do too is, you'll see kind of a white salt residue on the road, and he feels that's sufficient to kind of have that interface between the road and whatever ice or snow is falling. So he feels just putting down that biomeld on top of that white residue is just kind of a waste of money. So a lot of times there's enough residue on the roads that we don't even do anything to. So.
Other questions for Ben?
Two more. Let's stick with the theme, and I don't know where that was on the summary, but Tim, I recall a few meetings back that we were calibrating all our trucks, and we know how much salt we put down, and we have it pretty sophisticated. I didn't see that in the report, that we're really going above and beyond calibrating, so we know how much we put and how many lane miles stuff we put in, and so we can adjust and correct if someone's putting it heavy versus someone else. So
I think we purchased that 2024, man.
2020, yeah, end of 2024, but that's a great suggestion. I'll definitely update.
Yeah, I would say take credit for the
Right,
effort
yeah,
that we're
we
putting
definitely
in
should.
there. Let me skip to that page 29 again. It was your, 29 to 58, the fiscal analysis. I'm not sure how much latitude you have in shifting dollar amounts and line items. Again, my philosophy has always been, if you want to have better compliance, better check, you kind of put that 3 E's in there. You got the engineering part, you're calibrating trucks, you're putting that effort in there. You got an educational component definitely in here. But I see illicit discharge and detection and elimination. We have no budget for it. And then it says staff time only. So I don't know, maybe we're putting a ton of staff time that's just not showing up in here, but you would think we'd have a budget to help educate some of those recurring customers that just don't get it right, no matter who they throw at it. So,
Sure.
do you have latitude to shift line items, or is it
Yeah,
okay?
generally.
You might want to do that in there, and then on the educational component one, I was wondering if there's stuff that, and we're part of the Madison area and all the surrounding communities, and there's different seminars they can put on and that. I was just wondering if you have the ability to take advantage of some of the stuff we have more. Not every park has the little, I don't know if we call them kiosks, whatever. We got message boards with information to tell people what to do. Most of it I see is it's a bike group wants to advertise. We meet every Thursday and stuff, where maybe we could populate your stuff on there.
Yeah,
the
I love that
educational
idea.
stuff. The other thing is maybe if we had some freebie giveaways we were doing, maybe show up at those concerts on Thursday nights and set up a little booth or
Yeah,
something. and
that's
can do education with that.
that's perfect. Kind of meeting people where they are
Yep.
is I think, a great way to do that.
That's all I had.
Kim, Dave, anything? All right,
I'm good. I think you covered all the things that I had highlighted already.
okay. Then I guess we can take it to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 5226, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous.
I thought it was well done. It's very, very efficient and easy to read.
Thank you.
Moving on, next agenda item is announcements. Our next Board of Public Works meeting is Monday, March 16th. Same time, same place. Any other announcements from the gang here?
I don't know if I'll be here or not because I gotta have some surgery done, so depends when I get in for it.
Okay,
Okay? But I'll let you know.
thank you. I appreciate that. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We'll move, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Any objections?
None.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 6:14.